Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, presented by Güd Marketing and Wagoner Financial. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
May is Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month, and it serves as an important reminder that simple actions like taking an extra second to look twice can save lives. Here to talk about how Michigan is working to improve motorcycle safety and the role awareness campaigns play in changing driver behavior is the Deputy Chief of External Affairs for the Michigan Department of State, Joshua Elliott, and Senior Strategist and Research Manager from Güd Marketing, Chelsea Maupin. Welcome, Joshua and Chelsea.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
No, absolutely. Such an important message. The seasons are slowly starting to change. We get a day of summer and a day of fall and a day of spring all in the same week. But let's start with a bigger picture, Joshua. So why is Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month so important to your organization?
Yeah, it's very important, and especially now in this month, the month of May. May traditionally is where most motorcyclists come out and take their bikes out of storage and are on the road. And so we use this month to highlight motorcycle safety. Also, unfortunately, this time of year is when we see more accidents begin to occur. Right now in Michigan, about 600,000 motorcyclists are on the roads.
Wow.
And so
600,000?
600,000
Okay.
Who have the cycle endorsements on their license.
Okay. Yeah, and I got to believe that the automotive drivers have had 6 or 7 months without motorcycles around them. So it's yeah, that makes a lot of sense that this would be a good time to refresh everyone that's coming or that's happening as we speak. So
correct.
The phrase, I kind of alluded to it in my intro, but the look twice, save a life is such a simple phrase, but seems to be pretty powerful, and it rolls off, right? I mean, I've personally seen that messaging enough. Talk a little bit about, what does that really mean for, in true practice for drivers?
Yeah. I even think back to when I began driving, and when I was learning, my dad would always tell me, look to see your blind spots and make sure you're always looking at those. And so it's the same thing here. When you're driving, you should look twice just to make sure there's no one, specifically a motorcyclist, that's in your blind spot, and just to be aware.
Yep.
Aware of who else is on the road.
Right. So I think anyone can imagine that motorcycle collisions are a thing and that they happen. Are there any statistics to kind of talk a little bit about how important it is to really drive this message home right now? You mentioned May is a kind of a crash month because car drivers are new to it. Bikers are getting on the road for the first time and stuff. But talk a little bit about the impact and how many people are affected by this.
Yeah, so everything is statistic driven, and I'll actually pass that over to Chelsea.
Yeah, absolutely.
She has lots of that data.
Yeah, every year there are more than 1,500 crashes between a motorcyclist and a motor vehicle.
Wow.
And about 30% of those result in a fatality or a serious injury. So that's a lot of people being injured. It's a lot of families losing a loved one.
Yep.
So the message of look twice, save a life is very relevant. We're trying to bring those numbers down every year. So over the last 5 years of crash data, that's 8,000 crashes between a motorcyclist that's not surrounded by a car. They don't have airbags. They don't have safety systems like a vehicle would have.
Right.
So we want to recognize our more vulnerable people we're sharing the road with in this month.
So clearly a motorcycle is kind of a smaller footprint, a little harder to just accidentally see, right? If a Ford Explorer goes by me, I kind of see that. Someone zips by me on a motorcycle, it's a little bit smaller of something to see. Is there any other reasons why maybe they're harder to detect or to kind of keep in mind as you're driving through? Or what is inherently different about motorcycles that make it hard to avoid maybe sometimes?
Yeah, so you've hit the obvious one, right? They are smaller. It's easier for your eye to skip over them while you're scanning for traffic. But they also, because of their smaller size, they tend to be harder to predict their speed for a driver. They speed up and slow down in a way that most drivers have a harder time anticipating, which can be dangerous. And then because you're not expecting to see them often, your brain does this thing called inattentional blindness, which is a psychology term. But essentially it means you see them, but your brain doesn't register them. So you might have been scanning traffic, but it didn't register that that's something that's going to be moving towards you at a light if you're going to turn left. So all of these phenomenons make it more dangerous inherently for the motorcyclists while they're on the road, because drivers need to pay that extra bit of attention because it's easier to miss them.
Right. And you think about just anecdotally seeing pedestrians, you tend to naturally look for them because they're around regularly, clearly more when the weather is nicer, but they're a little bit more predictable and a little slower moving. So I guess you kind of, to your point, right? Another car, I can kind of guess what that other car is going to do. I can usually guess what a pedestrian is going to do. But these bicycles, the motorized scooters, the motorized bicycles, and motorcycles all have a start and stop. Like they can go at our speeds with cars, and they're turning rights and lefts, and they're sometimes in our major flow of traffic. So that is interesting to really say that all out loud, because I think as a car driver, not a motorcycle rider, hearing all of that and saying it out loud makes a lot of sense to me. So is there, you talked about May being kind of everyone's unearthing their toys and getting their bikes and even, sports cars and all that kind of stuff out of winterization. But what about time of day? Like, is it a Saturday thing? Is it a rush hour thing? Is there any kind of statistics as to when those accidents are happening?
Yeah, the crash data is very clear. Crashes tend to happen more often 4 to 11 p.m. with most of the crashes 5 to 8. So really your evening commute time is going to be the time of day. As we hit the fall, that lighting tends to be an issue when it comes to these crashes. It's, sun's blinding you. It's easier to miss that smaller road user. But evening commutes, and then we see over the last couple of years, kind of since 2020, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday have the majority of crashes. Before 2020, it was a little bit more spread out. I think we had more people going to work on a motorcycle, so you were seeing more weekday crashes. You were seeing morning commutes and evening commutes, but in 2026, the crash data says
more
weekends in the evenings.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay. And so the look twice, save a life, that clearly is short, but tells you what you should do. Just double check before you pull out or change lanes or whatever. Are there any other best practices that you're really trying to deliver to the drivers that are specific to motorcycle safety?
Yeah, and we also look at this from a viewpoint of a shared responsibility. And so, yes, this is Motorcycle Awareness Month, but at the same time, we want our drivers and motorcyclists to be aware of what's going on. And so some practices that we can all do is be aware who's around you, pay attention. Now there's cell phones, and so a lot of people are distracted, but just ensure that when you're driving, you are focused, you're looking at the road, and you're aware of those who are around you.
Right on.
One of the things that people forget or kind of don't recognize is you have forward blind spots in your motor vehicle. So people look behind you for those blind spots that you're taught all your life, but motorcyclists are easy to miss in your front. So between your front windshield and your side window, there's a pillar in your car.
A pillar.
The A pillar.
Yes.
Very good.
Hey, thank you.
When you're facing forward, say you're at a light, you're going to make a left turn, you can miss a motorcyclist that's going to be coming straight through that intersection and start your turn and totally miss them with that. So one good technique to avoid that is kind of to rock yourself forward in your seat, rock yourself back to make sure you can see fully, clearly at those intersections. The ones that tend to be most dangerous are those big ones, right? You got 2 lanes of traffic both ways. You've got turn lanes. You feel like you're waiting forever. You get a little distracted.
Right.
So,
and you get anxious to get moving, and all of a sudden there's someone there you weren't expecting. Great point. And I've got another good follow-up question, but I want to give a nod to our friends at Wagner Financial. Whether you're just starting out, planning for retirement, or anywhere in between, Wagner is here to help you make smart financial decisions. They offer comprehensive, customized planning from investment strategies and tax solutions to insurance, accounting, and estate planning. Wagner is dedicated to supporting you, your family, your business, and your future. Using their unique team approach and maximizing each member's specializations, they ensure that there's someone who will have an answer to your question and is ready to help. Schedule a consultation by visiting wagner-financial.com or give them a call at 517-853-3367. Joshua, you mentioned something that really resonated with me, and it just kind of dawned on me as we were going through this. The responsibility also needs to be on the motorcyclists, right? This all seems to be, hey, car drivers, be aware, look twice, make sure you're checking all these things. Motorcyclists, I guess, in self-preservation, there's just a natural expectation that they are going to be head on a swivel and making sure that they're doing the right thing. is there an equal but different kind of message to those folks, or is it all kind of lumped in from the Department of State?
Yeah, it's lumped in.
Yeah.
Our focus is on all drivers.
Right.
But again, specifically, this is Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month. I think before I left out the awareness, but Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month. But we also target aging drivers. We target young drivers as well. With motorcycle safety, it is younger drivers. Those who are 16 through 29 is our main focus, and that's based on data. But yeah, the responsibility is for everyone, and we want that message to be out there that it is a shared responsibility.
Right. And Chelsea, you talked specifically about some other things that may not be obvious to, the A-pillar and, rocking back and forth. Are there any other little simple ways to look twice just to make sure that everyone's okay?
Yeah, so one of the things that always surprises people is when you ask them, where do you expect crashes between a motorcyclist and a vehicle to occur? Nearly everybody's first instinct is to say it's on the highway. It's the motorcyclist weaving between cars. It's the dangerous actions there. That's roads with speed limits over 70 only account for 4% of crashes between a motorcyclist and a vehicle. These crashes are far, far more common on big city streets with multi-lanes.
Right.
Speed limits of 40, 55 miles an hour. You're just kind of going through a city. There are commercial businesses. You're looking for your turn. You're coming out of a driveway onto a four-way road.
Right.
Those are the places we're seeing these crashes happen most often, and most of the deadly ones are happening on those type of surface streets. So helping bring awareness of where you need to be hypervigilant for motorcyclists, where that look twice is going to be most impactful, is a big part of this campaign.
So when did the Look Twice Save a Life campaign begin? Because I feel like it's been around forever. I certainly am familiar with the brand of that slogan. How long ago did that start?
So the formal campaign kicked off in 2019, but that phrase has been around. It's something the motorcycling community has used to help reinforce that message on their own behalf. It's also something that we've seen other states use to promote. So it is something that we adopted and brought together in 2019. This campaign's actually pretty unique because the funding behind it actually came from the motorcycling groups themselves. They pushed the Michigan legislature to create a dedicated funding stream to do educational messaging around best practices for sharing the road because they were seeing fatalities, serious injuries rise. So motorcycle endorsements that are paid by the motorcycling community actually fund this work to tell people about looking twice, to bring attention to best and safest driving practices.
Got it. Okay. So when we're on our 7th kind of season of the brand, is that enough of a body of work to talk about the impact of the campaign and how the numbers might be moving?
The campaign, yes. And even me personally, I live in Grand Rapids.
Okay.
And I've seen the signs on buses, public buses, and it gives me a great opportunity just to talk to my kids, about it, and so that they're aware, and just others. So that's great to see. Specifically regarding data around the campaign, I just want to pull up some numbers there.
It's hard to commit all that stuff to memory.
Right. So I just want to make sure
that off the top of your head.
I'm accurate here. So the data shows us that our efforts, or the efforts of Güd Marketing, specifically with this campaign, that once we talk to young motorcyclists, they have reported that they are more likely to always check for motorcycles before a turn. Okay. And this is compared to, like Chelsea said, when this first started in 2019. So now we're looking at the data is 2025. So about 45% are more likely to do so or reported to always checking, as opposed to just 30% when this started in 2019.
Got it.
And so that's great to see that change. We've also seen where, looking at the last 6 years of tracking, that young drivers 18 through 29 report awareness of the campaign at higher levels than other age groups.
Okay.
So we are reaching the targeted age group. We also do things with different schools to bring awareness to the young drivers when it comes to motorcycles. So we are seeing data that shows that this is making an impact.
Has that resonated with any crash data?
Here and there, we spend a lot of time focused in Metro Detroit, Wayne County, and Kent County, as well as Macomb, Oakland County. Our highest population centers tend to have more crashes. We've got those really dense urban streets, and a lot of our motorcyclists live in those communities. So we've seen a great decrease in the total number of crashes, and particularly fatal and serious injury crashes in Wayne County. But we're seeing rises in other places. So it's not always as easy as we tell you a safety message. Some years we see more crashes because we've got more construction on the road, or we had a lot of good riding weather, so there was more time for people to be out, and maybe they weren't paying as much attention because...
Right. It's such a tough statistic. I mean, you can certainly track the data, but there are a lot of variables, like you just mentioned. And you never know, without the messaging, it could go exponentially higher.
And we're seeing nationally a rise in motorcyclist and motor vehicle crashes as well. So we're trying to keep Michigan's numbers down at a manageable level. And unfortunately, the crashes that do happen are becoming more fatal for our more vulnerable road users. So part of that is higher speed limits on roads. Other parts are more people driving bigger vehicles. So if you're in an SUV, you're in a pickup truck, and you crash into a motorcyclist, a bicyclist at 40 miles an hour, the odds of survival are not good because they don't have that protection, and you're hitting them high up if you...
Yeah, good point. Right.
And those variables that she's talking about, when you think of just how our roads are created, they're not created with motorcyclists being the main users. And so you think of things like roundabouts and different things like that. They're not created in order for motorcycles to be thought of. And so those are things we have to keep in mind. Construction sites, like you said as well, you have the rumble strips, which when we're in cars, it doesn't really affect us. But for motorcyclists, that's almost like ice. So those are pretty dangerous.
Right. Makes sense. And there's a strategy. I know enough about marketing to know that you don't want to keep changing the language, right? So the look twice, save a life is a thing that gathers momentum and resonates in the head if you consistently use that same messaging, right?
Absolutely. And because our target audience, the folks who are more likely to be involved in these type of crashes, are younger drivers, newer drivers.
Right.
We constantly have new 16, 17, 18-year-old drivers on the road. So getting it in their brain for their lifetime of driving that they need to be looking twice and be paying extra attention, particularly in summer months for motorcyclists. That's a constant new audience that we're reaching.
Right. So are there challenges to kind of cutting through all these distractions that drivers have and really trying to get the drivers to pay attention? Because the phrase is good. You do see them on billboards and even on signs on the back, so like you mentioned, of buses and things like that. But how do you, is there a strategy?
Yeah. So one of our key strategies is to reach people in the moment of driving. So we don't want to distract anybody while they're driving. That's not good. But we do want the action, the thing we're telling you to do, that look twice, to be relevant in the moment. So things like billboards, bus ads on the exterior sides of the buses.
Right.
Gas station TV is a great tactic. You've taken a moment out of your drive and you're getting this message, and you're about to turn out back into usually a higher risk road. So we look at that as an opportunity. Radio, digital streaming is also a great opportunity for us to reach people. One of the things we found great success in is we're able to geofence, so build like a digital invisible barrier around intersections that have a high rate of crashes. And then we know, because you have your cell phone with you always, who's traveled through those intersections. So we're able to feed you messaging online later. So not while you're driving, but we know you went through intersection of A and B, and we want you to know that that's a place where crashes happen. So that kind of very targeted, you are someone who drives on these specific roads, has been really impactful. And we also couple that with some other digital strategy targeting where you're going to get those messages on sunny days with good riding weather. We're not going to serve you a message about looking out for motorcyclists when it's downpouring and 40 degrees, because you're probably not going to encounter any.
Makes sense. All right. Well, regardless of whether you're driving a car or motorcycle, everyone needs insurance. And I recommend that you call my friend Kirk Byrons at State Farm. Today's podcast sponsored by one of our good friends at the Kirk Byrons State Farm Agency. Their mission is to put the customer first when helping them plan for the risks of everyday life, to prepare for the unexpected, and to realize their financial goals. Kirk and his team build value and confidence in your auto, home, life, health, business insurance, and financial service needs. Kirk is always looking for opportunities to help customers in mid-Michigan and around the country. Everyone has insurance needs, and you do well by contacting Kirk Byrons State Farm Agency to hear what these experts have to say. You can get in touch with them by calling 517-349-3830 or look them up at sfbyrons, that's BYRENS.com. You won't regret it. So, you talked about the specific groups that you're trying to reach, or the young drivers and the new drivers. Is that also reinforced in like driver's ed? Like
Yes.
when people are learning to drive cars and motorcycles, is this messaging also hitting those folks in the academic space as well?
Yes. So specifically for those who do training for motorcyclists, we do provide a toolkit, which is our Look Twice, Save a Life toolkit. So those are given to all the providers annually, and so they're able to reinforce that message to new drivers who are getting their endorsements. We also work closely with all driving schools, and that's one key part, just the education.
Right.
And again, like you said, so to hammer it down when it comes to safety. So that's a huge foundational point when it comes to safety overall, when it comes to driving, but specifically for those with motorcyclists. So, yep, that's something we continue to do.
And do you have a role in the state's education requirements? I mean, the Secretary of State, Department of State, the curriculum that a new motorcycle rider needs to go through and that a new car driver needs to go through, you drive what curriculum is required in order to
we have
earn
a
Michigan
big part
driver's
in that.
license, right?
Correct. We have a big part in that as well. Also, when it comes to licensing these driver education providers, we have a strong role in that too.
That's important, I think,
Yeah.
so you can require this chapter of that education to really happen.
And ultimately, you come to the Secretary of State to take your test.
Right.
And so we ultimately give you your cycle endorsement on your Michigan driver's license.
Right.
I will say that for new young drivers who are learning to drive a car, the lesson that's required by state law is only an hour long to cover all vulnerable road users. So what to expect out of bicyclists, what to expect out of motorcyclists, how to interact with a pedestrian at an intersection. So it is a relatively brief section of what
Right.
14, 15, 16-year-olds are learning. So if you're a parent of a new driver, I would really urge you to check out michigan.gov/looktwice. There are handouts and printouts that are pretty easily read, but helps new drivers understand what are the hand signals they might see a motorcyclist use,
Right.
or what to look out for brake lights if they're smaller, or talks a little bit about how motorcyclists don't always initiate their brakes that turn their brake lights on when they're coming to a stop, just different vehicle uses. One of the things we've heard from driver's ed instructors is that a lot of new drivers are totally reliant on hearing a motorcyclist.
Right. Loud pipes save lives. That's another campaign that maybe we don't give you credit for, but I've seen that sticker in the...
Yep.
Yep.
And that's true. But increasingly, there's more motorcycles available on the market that are far, far quieter than
Right.
your traditional bike. And so if you're a driver only relying on hearing, not seeing, or looking for that looking twice,
Right.
those folks are at a much higher risk.
That's actually a great point because, they have an artificial sound that electric cars are required to make so the pedestrians can hear them coming. Now you have the bikes don't have that. Motorcycles or, the electric motorcycle phenomenon hasn't really caught on all that much yet, but I've seen some out there. And you can couple the small footprint and the speed and agility that they have and take away all of the sound. Makes it even harder.
Yep.
So that makes a lot of sense. And to your point, incorporating parents, knowing that the younger drivers are often the ones that maybe are involved in this, to have the parents maybe require a little extra homework outside of the testing process to make sure they really drive that point home.
It could be good. Or, if you're just a driver who's a little bit nervous, every time you see a motorcyclist, you grip your wheel and slow down and get away from them because you don't want to be involved in a crash and you've not experienced much. This is a great way of kind of boning up on best practices of sharing the road and making you feel more confident that you're going to be okay, everyone's going to be safe and arrive at their destination.
Right on. Well, outside of the actual phrase "look twice, save lives," what and as a parting message, if there's one thing or a couple of things that you want drivers to do on the road as they are listening to this show, what else might they need to do?
Look twice really is the core message. That's why we say it so often. So when you're about to make a left, especially when you're about to make a left, look twice, look 3 times, look 4 times. Keep an eye out. It's easy for motorcyclists to get lost in the mix. And I would say have a conversation with younger drivers, or if you're driving on those high-frequency roads often, pay attention. Tell your colleagues that are also traveling on that same road that, hey, this is the season of these crashes, and here's the best practices to avoid being engaged or involved in one.
Right on. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I would also say same thing, look twice, save a life. And me as a parent, I think it's also our responsibility. So like what you said, for us still to talk to our children about these things, are those that we interact with daily. It's extremely important. And then, like I said earlier, it is a shared responsibility. So as the motorcyclist, also be aware of what's around you, but also as someone that's in a vehicle, yes, please be aware, please pay attention. Do not drive distracted, and look around twice, 3 times for those who may be around.
Something we hear from younger drivers or people who think they're doing best practice is, I don't look at my phone while I'm driving. I wait till I'm at a stop sign or a light, and I only pick it up then, which is marginally safer, but you aren't paying attention to what's happening at that intersection. So say you're checking your notifications at the light and you glance up, you see the light's green, you set your phone down and you go because the light's green. That doesn't necessarily give you time to scan that intersection to make sure everyone's cleared it, or to make sure that you're aware that there's a motorcyclist coming the opposite way that you need to be looking out for before you make your turn, because you've missed them unintentionally, but that's still not going to prevent a crash.
Makes a lot of sense. You mentioned, Chelsea, a website. Where can people go to learn more about this if the parents want to really reinforce this for the kids, or just anyone listening wants to brush up on this best practice?
Yeah, there's great videos, there's great resources at michigan.gov/looktwice.
Got it. Okay. Any closing thoughts, Joshua, on your department's role in all of this? I mean, it seems, she just gave you the website, but is there any other like the tutorials on prepping for driver's ed training or motorcycle safety in general? Is there another place for any of that, or is it all kind of found in the same spot?
So it's still also michigan.gov/SOS. So you can find lots of information there.
Got it.
Yep.
Fantastic. I appreciate you joining me. And then Güd Marketing, obviously this is your client, I guess, in a manner of speaking, that you're really helping develop this branding for and the safety for all of our residents. So I applaud you on that. How can people learn more about your organization?
Yeah, we're so grateful to be able to partner with the Department of State and with the motorcycle community to help put these messages out to make all of our communities healthy, make them better and thriving. So if you want to learn more about Güd Marketing, you can visit us at gudmarketing.com.
Wonderful. Well, Chelsea and Joshua, thanks very much for joining me and sharing this wonderful message. And I'd love to give a final shout out to all of the loyal sponsors of the show. We got Wagoner Financial, Triterra Environmental, Keller Williams, Advantage and Team, Michigan Rise, Kirk Byron State Farm, and the attorneys at Foster Swift. All fantastic people worth the call. And if you found the show as a one-off, I want to remind you to follow and subscribe to Michigan Reimagined pretty much anywhere you find your podcasts. This is Chris Buck signing off for Michigan Reimagined.